At 7:13 on a wet Thursday in April, 68 invited guests stood beneath Vale's heated glass canopy on Pier 7, balancing champagne over imported limestone while camera lights polished the courtyard. Celia Vance, the Michelin-starred chef people around her had started mistaking for proof, was introducing Harbor Week's street food residency when Erin Doyle came through the side gate in a faded denim jacket with one sleeve darkened by fryer oil, her 6-year-old daughter Luna beside her, holding a white stuffed rabbit by one ear. Celia's eyes moved once to the dented truck Erin had bought for $400 from a roofing company liquidation, and stopped there. "We don't make room for hobby projects," Erin did not argue. She did not flinch. She simply took back the permit packet, folded it once, and stepped away. Someone near the champagne tower laughed and said, "That thing looks like it serves regret on a paper plate." 30 days later, there would be a handwritten reservation board, zip-tied to that same truck. A 93-day waitlist running down 2 legal pads, and Celia Vance would stand in rain behind her kitchen, watching the only line on the pier still moving. The woman she had dismissed as temporary would become the one person between Vale and a failure, large enough to be counted in contracts, payroll, and tired people who still needed dinner. Before we dive further, tell us where you are watching from, and if this story touches your heart, please share it with your beloved ones and subscribe to this channel. That morning had begun before dawn, when the truck looked less like a business than like a rectangular problem nobody sensible would have adopted. It was a 1998 Freightliner with 184,212 miles, cracked passenger mirror glass, and a generator that coughed twice before deciding to live. Erin parked behind the wholesale fish market because the asphalt there pitched just enough to drain wash water away from her shoes, then climbed into the service window with a flashlight between her teeth and a carpenter's pencil behind her ear. She measured the cook line again to the nearest 1/4 inch. The left side of the griddle ran hotter by roughly 14 degrees. The rear burner lagged by 3.7 seconds on recovery, and the side hatch needed a shove at one precise upward angle or it caught. She adjusted the rails by 6 millimeters with black-taped pliers, then dripped water across the steel and watched evaporation tell the truth. 5 seconds on the left, 7 in the center, 9 at the rear. She altered the regulator a fraction and tested again. Most people would have called the work desperate. Erin treated it like calibration. Luna sat on an overturned milk crate under the pass shelf, swinging one sneaker above a coloring book. Her rabbit, Pearl, had one matted ear and a pink thread nose sewn back on with dental floss. Erin handed her half a banana without looking up. Luna peeled it in one long spiral and watched her mother mark the griddle lip in chalk. Left for sear, center for recovery, right for hold. She thought this was simply how dinner became possible. By 6:24, the first stock pot was on. Erin skimmed chicken bones, onion peels, bruised celery, pepper, bay, charred garlic, and coriander stems into 12 liters of water, brought it to 91 degrees, and lowered it before a hard boil could cloud the broth. In a polished kitchen, that attention might have been called refinement. In a patched truck, it looked like unnecessary care. Erin let strangers think that. Theo Mercer arrived at 7:02 with vendor maps under one arm and coffee he was too busy to drink. Theo, Harbor Week's operations director, looked like a man permanently walking from one problem into another. He circled the truck once, noted the generator housing, and asked, "How much did this cost?" $400, Erin said. "That's either a bargain or a warning, mostly both." Luna lifted Pearl toward him in greeting. Theo crouched to her height without hesitation. "That rabbit has been through something," he said. "Laundry," Luna answered. Theo nodded, then handed Erin the temporary vendor packet. Harbor Week would run 11 nights across Pier 7 and the old cannery district, with 142 applicants for 18 short-term slots, and only 6 summer residencies worth 7 figures in traffic and future bookings. Tonight's preview was not officially decisive. It was decisive anyway. Investors, press, city permit officers, and 3 board members would attend. If Theo's recommendation landed, Erin could get a provisional berth on the eastern lane beside a craft soda cart and a dessert trailer. Vale is anchoring the west court, Theo said. Celia thinks the star can pull the whole lane. Erin checked the stock with a probe thermometer and waited 2.1 seconds for the read. Can it? Theo's mouth moved almost into a smile. It can definitely believe it can. By afternoon, Erin had turned the truck from salvage into intention. She scrubbed the aluminum ledge, labeled squeeze bottles in neat block letters, hung one laminated menu in the pass window, and put the second in the top left drawer beneath the invoice book. The menu held 4 items: smoked chicken flatbread with lemon slaw, confit potatoes with burnt onion aioli, dill-finished bone broth, and a children's grilled cheese cut into 4 equal rectangles because Luna had once cried over an uneven triangle. The prices were low enough to look unambitious and precise enough to tell anyone reading carefully that she had measured every gram. Shortly after 3, Noah Bell came down the alley with a produce runner and a clipboard. Noah, Vale's chef de cuisine, carried authority quietly. He was broad-shouldered, 36, with flour at one cuff and a burn scar along his right wrist. He was there over a delivery discrepancy, not for Erin, and he would have passed if he had not seen her remove the griddle plate, sight its warp against the light, slide shim stock beneath one bolt, and settle the steel flat under her fingers. Most people would have tightened the bolt hard and called the wobble close enough. Erin did not. She poured a spoon of water over 3 positions, counted the evaporation, altered the regulator by 0.03, and tested again. Your recovery zone is too narrow, Noah said. Only if I'm serving people who don't know how to wait 11 seconds. He looked at the menu. That broth should be 14 ounces. It drinks heavy. 14 slows the line. Noah glanced at the clear stock pot. You're skimming at 91. Yes, he said nothing after that. Something in him had recognized a language before he was ready to admit it. By evening, the back courtyard behind Vale had been remade into sponsor theater. Tall heaters clicked alive. Matching black canopies turned loading space into brand architecture. Vale's temporary station centered on a custom rotisserie, insured for more than Erin was likely to gross in her first half year. Celia Vance moved through the setup in a cream chef's jacket, correcting garnish height with one finger and signing invoices without reading past the total. She was efficient, ambitious, recently elevated from acclaim to ownership, and used to being obeyed before questions gathered enough courage to become sound. Half a pace behind her stood Isaac Crane, Vale's director of operations, whose talent was making every system under him appear ownerless until whoever stood at the top assumed it had always been theirs. Isaac had seen Erin years earlier in Vale's basement prep kitchen, rewriting vendor substitutions after midnight because a refrigeration delay had changed the water content in 6 cases of greens, and the tasting menu would have failed if the ratios stayed fixed. He had watched those corrections save service. He had never put her name in the reports. When Theo brought Erin and Luna to the permit table, Isaac looked first at the truck, then at Erin, and calculation crossed his face so quickly it might have been missed by anyone without practice. Celia barely gave him that long. Theo introduced Erin, cited her numbers, and handed over the packet. Celia glanced down, paused at the handwritten purchase price, and said, "We don't make room for hobby projects." Theo began to answer. Erin touched the packet and stopped him. She did not plead. She did not defend herself. She folded the carbon copy once and slid it into her invoice book. Luna pressed Pearl's ear to her own cheek. A sommelier from the West Court looked at the truck and said, "That thing looks like it serves regret on a paper plate." A few people laughed because the night had prepared them to laugh at whatever cost less. "We fill the remaining slots with operators who support the brand architecture," Celia added, her attention already returning to a donor. "Not rescue projects." That was the formal dismissal, soft as paperwork and hard as a locked door. Erin walked the length of the service lane without looking back. Rain had started again, light enough to silver concrete without making sound. At the truck, she tightened the tarp straps, reached beneath the seat for Luna's cardigan, and held it out, because the temperature had dropped 3 degrees in 15 minutes. Luna stood on the curb and lifted her arms like a small, tired pilot preparing for flight. "Are we going home?" she asked. "Not yet." Aaron drove inland to the old cannery loading dock and began prep as if the evening had unfolded exactly as planned. She cut 4 kilograms of potatoes and uneven half-moons because more broken edges meant more texture once heat found fat. She salted them at 1.8% by weight, whisked egg yolk into burnt onion reduction until the aioli shone, and lined up deli cups by lid color so Rosie, her part-time helper from the community college nursing program, could work one-handed when the line turned ugly. Luna fell asleep at 8:51 on the bench seat, one fist still wrapped around Pearl's cotton paw. Theo did not come close enough to wake the child. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's a lane assignment." It was more than that. Aaron snapped lids onto 6 containers. Every pull tab turned forward. "I have a temp permit for Garrison and 9th. You can still apply for the overflow review in 3 weeks. And if I do well there?" Theo looked toward the harbor where Vale's lights reflected in the rain. "Then the same people who don't see you tonight will have to do the math later." After he left, Aaron stood still with both hands flat on the cutting board. The knife lay where she had placed it, handle turned toward her right hand. She did not touch it. She did not move the stock pot. She simply stood there while rain tapped the truck roof and the generator hummed beneath her feet. Then she reached above the sink, took down a yellow legal pad, and wrote tomorrow's prep list in compact letters that looked typeset. The apartment on Alder Street held exactly 2 mugs, 3 unmatched plates, and a narrow shelf of manuals. When Aaron got home, she carried Luna in without waking her, one arm under the knees, one at the shoulders, Pearl pinned gently between them. She chilled tomorrow's stock in an ice bath before she sat down, because food safety did not care how tired anyone was. At 11:31, she checked Luna's bed. The child had rolled onto her side, cardigan still on. "Did the rabbit come?" Luna murmured without fully waking. Aaron tucked Pearl back into the crook of her arm. "Yes, my lucky socks worked a little," Luna said, and slept again. Aaron crossed to the metal file box under her own bed, unlocked it, and took out a thick grease-marked binder held shut by a whitening rubber band. The cover read Field Service Offsite Systems. Inside were yield tables, burner pressure notes, weather contingencies, route maps, temperature loss calculations, and a payroll printout from 7 years earlier showing ED. Beside 3 unpaid overtime blocks and a note corrected by hand. No reissue. Aaron looked at that page once, then put the binder away. The next 3 weeks were built from weather, repetition, and numbers small enough to be ignored by anyone waiting for dramatic proof. Aaron parked the truck at Garrison and 9th, between a laundromat and a bus stop, and turned disadvantage into sequence. She learned that the generator coughed at 41% fuel and lied about it at 44%. Learned which compostable forks snapped under hot potatoes, and taped a handwritten sign beside the menu. Broth ready at 11:07. That promise brought people 5 minutes early. On day 4, a city clerk bought 2 grilled cheeses and returned for broth. On day 6, a bike courier posted a photograph of the chicken flatbread with the caption, "Better than it has any right to be." On day 7, Aaron sold out of broth at 12:39 and increased the next order by 13%, not 20%. Noah came that evening just before close, wearing a charcoal sweater instead of veil whites and failing to look off duty. "You're out of flatbread," he said. "Yes. People from my kitchen have been coming here. I noticed." He rested 2 fingers on the pass shelf. "Celia doesn't know. That's not my department." He looked at Luna, who was building a cracker wall for Pearl to live behind. "How old?" 6 3/4. Luna answered before Aaron could. Noah nodded gravely. "Important distinction." Aaron wiped the board, then offered one factual disclosure and left it there. Her father died when she was 11 months old. Noah's hand tightened once on the shelf. "I'm sorry." She slid a lidded broth cup toward him. "You came too late for flatbread." He reached for his wallet. "You did." He took the broth anyway, stood there a second longer than a cup required, and said, "Your hold zone is wider now. People learned how to wait less." He looked at the chalk marks and the new one near the rear corner. You changed the gas mix by 0.03. He nodded once to Luna and walked away carrying the broth like evidence. Inside Vale, Harbor Week planning had begun to fray, though expense disguised it. Celia approved a reduced prep labor model because Isaac's spreadsheet promised a 8% gain if more components were finished live. Noah told her the outdoor line could not support that much a-la-minute work once wind crossed. The West Court and burner recovery dropped. She listened long enough to count it as listening and approved the cuts anyway. Isaac removed the backup broth batch because its cost looked redundant. Mina Solis, Vale's pastry lead, and the witness who could not act, watched warming cabinets disappear from the equipment list to make room for sponsor florals. She knew elegant concepts die in steam and Q compression. She also knew pastry leads did not overrule Michelin chefs. Authority exercised without the willingness to listen is not strength. It is a specific and very costly kind of blindness. Erin, meanwhile, built a working machine out of absence. The truck had no salamander, so she staged crisp under the hood vent and melt under a steel bowl tented over the flatbread for 19 seconds. The reach-in cooled unevenly, so she rotated protein every 27 minutes and marked the times in grease pencil by the latch. Rosie worked only Tuesdays and Fridays after nursing classes, so Erin rewrote every abbreviation until each hand motion had one interpretation. CHX lost eye. Brothdill. She taped the sequence beside the reach-in and stopped needing to look at it. At home, the bank balance became less frightening by increments too small to feel noble. Erin paid the propane supplier on time. She bought Luna a new pack of socks with yellow stars stitched near the heels. On a rainy Sunday, Luna drew the truck in blue marker with smoke coming from the roof. "Can I draw the line too?" she asked. "If you want." Luna made a long row of circles in front of the truck and added one tall figure at the end with dark hair. "That's the lady from the party." Erin turned the burner down by habit. "Maybe. Is she mean?" "She's busy." Luna considered this and drew Pearl in the service window. Pearl can still be there. On the 19th day, Harbor Week's preview videos went live. Vale's launch reel showed Celia plating lacquered quail under theatrical sparks. Erin's truck appeared for 6 seconds in the background of a sponsor montage. Someone clipped the earlier exchange and posted it with laughter over the top. By evening, Garrison and Ninth had more customers than the side lane could hold. Some came to laugh in person. A few left carrying paper trays and quieter faces. Theo stopped by with permit stickers and a face he had been wearing all day. "You're trending." "That sounds temporary," Erin said. "It is. Everything is. Overflow review is in 6 days. Eastern Lane may reopen if West Court throughput misses target." "Will it?" Theo looked at the line of office workers, students, bus drivers, and 2 suited men from a law firm balancing broth cups in the wind. "I'm starting to think the wrong people have been optimizing the wrong numbers." 2 days later came a false resolution in the shape of a successful simulation. Vale served 173 sponsor plates in 92 minutes, enough for Isaac to declare the outdoor model stable. Celia let herself believe it. Noah knew the test had used indoor holding, reduced menu complexity, and guests polite enough to arrive in manageable clusters. Real crowds never behave that well around hunger. Still, the spreadsheet glowed green, the investors relaxed, and for 12 hours the failure lost its outline. Then the weather advisory came in. Opening night gusts at 29 miles per hour with intermittent rain. Noah requested 2 hot boxes, 1 backup stock burner, and the return of the removed warming cabinets. Isaac denied all 3. Celia signed off without visiting the lane. That same afternoon, Rosie found the old binder by accident. Erin had asked for parchment from the file box while she showered before service, and Rosie brought out the wrong stack. The binder fell open on the kitchen table. There were wind-loss tables, alternate lane maps for Vale's West Court, burner pressure notes, and a photograph of a younger Erin in Vale whites beside temporary loading dock burners while a younger Cecilia smiled at a visiting critic in the foreground. Rosie touched the page. "You built their off-site program." Erin closed the binder. "I wrote some notes." "That's not notes." Erin slid the binder back into the box. Machines belong to whoever maintains them. Rosie was 23, tired, smart, and poor in the ordinary way that makes extra work look like opportunity, until one day it looks like theft. She understood more than Aaron wanted her to. She could do nothing with it. 3 days before opening, the Eastern Lane reopened after a dessert vendor lost refrigeration. Theo called at 8:06 p.m. Aaron asked the exact slot dimensions, amperage, drainage grade, and gray water pickup schedule. Theo answered all four. She said yes. Opening night arrived with 3,400 prepaid tickets, low sky, and wind strong enough to make Flame behave like a rumor. Harbor's Week's lights came up at 5:58. By 6:11 Vale's West Court line was 93 people deep. Celia stood at the pass in cream whites, hairpinned, jaw set. Isaac drifted between stations with a tablet. Noah held fire control. Mina plated dessert nearby while watching the hotline over her shoulder. Aaron's truck opened without announcement. Luna sat inside on the jump seat with headphones, coloring book, and Pearl in her lap because there had been no one else to leave her with. Rosie handled dish and expo. Aaron ran flat top, broth, and pass alone for the first 22 minutes. Her line formed slowly, then steadily, then all at once. She did not rush, she tightened. Vale's first failure was small enough to hide. Burner 3 lost recovery under the crosswind. Quail skin failed to lacquer on schedule. Isaac ordered the line to push anyway. Noah shifted product and bought 11 minutes. Then reduced labor showed itself. Garnishes lagged. Potatoes lost its hold. A jus pan cooled below service temperature, while a sponsor demanded substitutions for someone filming. Celica cut components on the fly, which improved nothing because composition was not the choke point. Heat was, sequence was. At 6:47 the line stopped moving for 94 seconds. At 6:51 a junior cook burned his forearm on an unmarked pan. At 6:58 the backup stock ran out. 47 prepaid donor portions still had no sauce. Noah told Celia they needed to cut to 2 items, root hot hold from the rear tent and abandon plating vanity. Isaac overruled him because sponsors were filming. Celia hesitated, and in that hesitation the next failure arrived. A portable warming cabinet, overloaded to cover for the removed second unit, threw an error and went dark. Potatoes began falling through safe hold. Mina saw the temp slip on the monitor and felt her hand find the rack post without noticing when it had moved there. Across the lane Aaron looked once, saw smoke moving sideways instead of up, and changed her own sequence. She widened the hold zone, rotated broth to the rear burner, and shifted flatbreads to staggered fire. Cups first, she told Rosie, then potatoes, then chicken. The line compressed toward her window as Vale stalled. A donor stepped out of the Michelin queue for broth, then 2 inspectors. Then a family who had planned to split plates and instead sat on a wet bench eating grilled cheese, cut into 4 equal rectangles, while their son smiled with relief. At 7:12 Theo's radio delivered the number that mattered. 286 boxed late-night meals for Harbor Week staff, EMT crews, stagehands, sanitation workers, and ferry operators were due by 9 under Vale's catering contract. The West Court crisis was consuming the labor meant to produce them. If the contract failed, the consequence would not be a bad review. It would be tired people finishing hard work, with nothing hot waiting at the end. Theo found Celia in the rear tent, while Isaac argued with a rental technician. "If you keep chasing the line," Theo said, "the staff meals die." "We can recover," Celia said. "Can you?" For the first time that month doubt crossed her face as something physical rather than theoretical, a tightening low in the throat. It was too late and not yet enough. Noah appeared beside them, sweat dark at the spine of his jacket. "The field manual is gone." Isaac looked up too quickly. "What manual?" "The one you said was archived." Mina set down her tweezers. "Aaron wrote it." Nobody spoke for a beat. Then Theo turned to Isaac. "Is that true?" "She was support staff," Isaac said. "A prep lead." "Those systems were collaborative." Noah's voice stayed level. "I've seen the annotations. Her hand, wind-loss tables, alternate lane routing. You pulled the binder when she left." Zelia looked from Noah to Isaac and saw how much of her certainty had been built on somebody else's invisibility. Indifference does not bend to evidence the way malice sometimes does. The meals, Theo said. I need a solution in 3 minutes. Noah was already taking off his apron. I know where to find her. Aaron was in the middle of a rush when he came to the truck. She was moving with the kind of economy that made speed look calm. Left hand dressing slaw, right hand checking broth. Luna looked up as Noah appeared, damp-haired, Vale's logo dark with rain. We need help, he said. With what? Late night contract. 286 meals. Westcourt is failing. Aaron set down the knife. Where's Celia? Trying not to lose the front. And Isaac? There. She looked once at Luna, once at the line, once at the clock above the pass. 7:19. Less than 101 minutes remained. What do you need exactly? Sequence, heat, salvage, anything. After 2 seconds, Rosie, close after the next 12 tickets. Broth only after that. Theo can reimburse if he wants to argue later. She turned to Luna. Boots on, are we fixing theirs? Luna asked. We're feeding the people at the back of the list. Aaron crossed the lane without drama, Luna at her side and Noah half a pace behind. In the rear production tent, she opened equipment doors before mouths. 6 speed racks, 2 dead cabinets, 1 live combi, 3 hotel pans of potatoes softening past usefulness, a cambro of unfinished jus. She took the room in 4 seconds. Kill quail after current tickets, she said. Convert all dark meat to shredded hold. Stock on combi steam, 94. Potatoes get smashed and re-crisped on sheet pans with duck fat. Where's your acid? A cook pointed to squeeze bottles. No, real acid. Pickle base in the walk-in. Bring it. Isaac started to say Celia had not approved any of this. Aaron looked at him once, and the sentence died before it reached air. Celia entered 30 seconds later and stopped just inside the flap, rain silvering her jacket. She watched Aaron move the room by naming facts faster than panic could invent alternatives. You switch stations. You're burning labor on garnish nobody can taste in a box. Cut lids now. Label after fill, not before. Steam loss is 12 feet from the door. Move the live cabinet 31 inches. Not there. There. Nobody applauded. The room recognized competence too quickly for ceremony. Luna sat on an overturned flower bucket in the driest corner with a juice box Theo had found somewhere impossible. Pearl rested in her lap while adults obeyed her mother, with the seriousness children reserve for ordinary miracles. The proof unfolded in steel, vapor, and time. Aaron rewrote plated prestige into portable survival without making it feel lesser. Quail legs came off bone and into a dark glaze thinned with stock and sharpened with pickle acid so flavor survived the lid. Potatoes were crushed by palm, not spoon, to create fracture lines that re-crisped under high heat in 11 minutes. She cut the garnish list from 6 elements to 2 and restored brightness by folding dill oil through warm jus at service. She drew the assembly path on butcher paper and grease pencil. Protein, starch, sauce, seal, rack, 4 stations. 1 direction, no crossing hands. She removed empty sponsor glassware because it occupied the exact table needed for boxing. When a line cook reached for microgreens out of habit, she took the container from his hand and set it under the table without comment. Noah watched her calculate hold loss by touch and steam density. Celia watched her discover the dead spaces in the tent as if she had built them, which in a way she had. At 7:41, Aaron sent the first 24 boxes to rack. At 7:53, the second wave. At 8:07, she reassigned Vale's exhausted saucier to sealing and freed 2 faster hands for hot fill. At 8:14, she sent Noah to the front with a cut-down menu and 1 sentence for the pass. We are serving 2 items tonight. Celia repeated it exactly. The West Court queue, deprived at last of illusion, began moving again. Isaac tried twice to reclaim the room with vocabulary about sponsor expectations. Aaron did not answer him either time. She pointed once to the temp log and said, "Read that." Later, when he suggested using the half-warm potatoes anyway to protect food cost, she said, "Discard them." 2 words, entirely sufficient. At 8:22, Luna approached Celia, who was sealing lids now with a streak of jus near one cuff and hair loosening at the neck. "Are you the busy lady?" Luna asked. Celia looked down at the child and the white rabbit. "Yes," she said, "I think I was." Luna nodded. "My mom gets busy too, but she still remembers the corners." Celia's hands paused over the lids. She did not know what she was feeling. She only knew her throat had tightened again and Noah Bell, across the table, had looked away to give her privacy she had not earned. By 8:39, the late-night contract was no longer dying. By 8:52, it was on time. Theo loaded the final racks into insulated carriers while stagehands, EMT crews, sanitation workers, and ferry operators still outside had no idea how close their hot meal had come to becoming a canceled line item. Celia found Aaron at the hand sink rinsing stock from her forearms. The tent had thinned. Steam drifted low. In the corner, Luna had fallen asleep against folded linen, Pearl under her chin. Noah was outside with Theo. Isaac was nowhere visible. "I should have asked more questions," Celia said. "Yes," Aaron answered. "I didn't know the program was yours." "It wasn't mine if nobody could name it." Rain tapped the tent roof. "Why come over at all?" Celia asked. Aaron hung the towel carefully on the rack. "Because the people at the back of the list didn't do anything wrong." Celia said nothing. After a moment, Aaron added, "And because bad systems spread. Not warm, not cold. More accurate than either." The administrative resolution happened 41 minutes after Clislos in a service corridor smelling of wet cardboard, propane, and lemon sanitizer. Theo was there with 2 permit officers, a city contracts manager, Noah, Mina, and Celia with her cream jacket folded over one arm. Isaac arrived late carrying a tablet no one asked to see. The contracts manager read from a variance hens form. For the remainder of Harbor Week and the 92-day summer review period, the Eastern Lane emergency berth would become a priority concession slot. Vale's off-site corrective plan would be overseen by an independent field consultant. The consultant's temporary title, pending board approval, would be systems chef for harbor operations. The contracts manager looked up. "Miss Doyle, can you accept that designation effective tonight?" It was the first time the institution used her last name before she did. Aaron signed. "Yes." Isaac opened his mouth. Celia spoke first. "No," she said, not looking at him. "Not tonight." His mouth closed. Diminishment rarely arrives as spectacle. More often it is geometry. A room simply stops bending around a person. The next 12 days changed the pier by increments visible only to people who looked closely. Aaron kept the truck. She insisted on that before anything else was signed. When leverage reached her hands, she spent it on procedure. She added escalation language to Harbor Week policy. No vendor could be denied on equipment value alone. Throughput objections required site review. Every field manual carried named authorship and version dates. Contingency cuts need sign-off from the person who would actually work the line. Theo approved the revisions with the speed of a man who had wanted them for years. Noah moved between Vale and the Eastern Lane often now, sometimes on pretext, sometimes not. He brought a replacement gasket after noticing the truck's fridge seal. She sent over emergency broth the night a prep order came in short. Once, near midnight, he found her behind the pier, replacing a stripped pass window screw with a machine bolt cut down by hand. "You keep spare hardware in your knife roll?" he asked. "In the side pocket." He took the flashlight when she tilted her head toward it, holding the beam steady while she threaded the bolt home. Their hands came close twice without touching. When the latch caught, Noah said, "There." Aaron tested the closure. "There." Nothing else was said for a while. Luna became the bridge because children cross distances adults inventory. On the 5th residency night, she sat on the truck step eating grilled cheese while Noah waited for a pickup order. "Do chefs get homework?" she asked. "Yes, all the time. Mostly." She considered this. "Do you have a rabbit?" "No, maybe you need one." Noah looked at Pearl's repaired nose. "Maybe I do." Later that week, hot glaze slipped across Aaron's wrist. She worked through close and noticed the blister only when she rinsed at the sink. Celia was in the truck then to sign off on a stock transfer she could have delegated and did not. She opened the first aid tin and ran cool water over Aaron's wrist for the correct length of time. "This part I do know," Celia said. Aaron let her. Their hands were close over the sink while steam lifted around them. Luna sat at the jump seat painting Pearl's cardboard house with markers Theo had salvaged from sponsor surplus. Noah, at the service window, pretended to study the reservation board. "Does it hurt?" Luna asked Celia, not Aaron. Celia glanced toward the child. "Less if you deal with it early." It was the first unguarded sentence she had spoken in the story. The waitlist began as a joke and became accounting. Rosie wrote tomorrow full on a legal pad and clipped it outside. By the third morning, the pad held names 11 days out. By the 10th, Theo had a sponsor intern build a digital queue, and still people asked for the paper. On day 30, Aaron's truck had reservations and overflow stretching 93 days. Vale did not collapse. It contracted to its honest shape. Celia reduced the Westcourt menu, rehired 2 prep cooks Isaac had cut, and put named credit lines on the field documents Noah and Aaron revised together. She stopped approving cost changes without lane review. She visited the East Lane more than once and never again spoke about hobby projects. She was reduced, but only into proportion. Near the end of the review period, the city contracts manager came to the truck with a final packet. Wind pushed fryer scent down the lane. Theo stood nearby. Noah restocked cups. Luna sat on the curb in a yellow raincoat lining up crackers for Pearl's tea party. "Mrs. Doyle," the manager said, "the permanent concession offer is ready if you want it. Priority lane, multi-season, named operator protections included." Aaron read the first page, then the second. Add 1 line. What line? No provisional denial without a full equipment test. And any corrective policy has to name who wrote it. Theo nodded before the manager looked up. The line was added. Aaron signed. That night service ended at 8:44. Rosie left for class. Theo went to a meeting. Celia crossed the lane with quince paste for Luna because she had learned children trusted honest gifts more. Noah stacked the final trays. Harbor lights laid yellow ladders across the water. Inside the truck, Aaron opened the under-counter fridge, took out a bottle of orange juice, poured it over ice into the 1 plastic cup without cracks, and set it beside Luna on the jump seat. Stability had taught the child she no longer needed to campaign for ordinary things. "For me?" Luna asked. "For you." Luna took the cup in both hands, then lifted Pearl so the rabbit could inspect it first. Celia watched from the service window and said nothing. Noah passed Aaron the clean towel from its hook. Their fingers brushed this time, lightly, by accident or not by enough accident to matter. He did not pull away quickly. Neither did she. Outside, the reservation board clicked against the truck wall in the wind, 2 legal pads thick with names and times, and people willing to wait because something built with care had finally been seen. Aaron looked from the board to the chalk marks, still faint on the griddle lip. Left for sear, center for recovery, right for hold. And then at Luna drinking orange juice with ice beside a white rabbit whose matted ear smelt of dill, smoke, and warm bread. The corner of Aaron's mouth moved. It was small. It was quiet. Pearl sat in the service window above the handwritten list, one white ear lit gold by the pass lamp.